All right. And tell us a little bit about yourself. Did you grow up in Columbus? Where are you from?
I'm from Columbus, from the east side. I grew up in South Bexley, and I went away to college briefly and went to school in the South, realized I was a Yankee and had to come back to the North, which I didn't know I was a Yankee till I went there. Anyway, and since then, since 82, I've lived in Columbus. And since 1990, I've lived in the Eastmore neighborhood of Columbus, which is on the east side, um, between Bexley and James Road, and raised my family there. I went to Mount Carmel School of Nursing. That's where I graduated from. I went to some schools before then, but graduated from Mount Carmel. And so I've been a nurse for 39 years now. I went to the old style Mount Carmel, the diploma nursing, where we wore, pinafores and caps, and we're proud to do so. I worked at Mount Carmel Hospital itself for 15 years on the west side in the bottoms. And then I worked for the urology group for Mount Carmel for 5 years in that same area, and then got into outpatient surgery and worked at various places, ended up at OSU, yada yada. And so now I'm mostly retired as a nurse. And I started following the shelter because when I worked at Mount Carmel West in the surgical intensive care unit in the probably mid-late 80s, that's when the shelter was down there on Gift Street, wasn't it?
State
Street.
Yep.
And so another nurse, whose name is Ann, she had been a social worker previously, and we worked night shift. So night shift, you talk, you get to talk at least some at the time, and we'd be doing our work and talking, and she's like, hey, there's this homeless shelter right near here that we should do something for them. So this group of nurses in the SICU, and then there was one anesthesiologist. He was from India, and he had grown up very poor, and he wanted to help us. So he would give us $20 a month, and then one person would buy the bread, one person would buy the meat, one person would buy the cheese, one person would buy the baggies, whatever. And once a month we went to someone's house and put lunches together and dropped them off.
Oh, wow.
And so I think there was like 5 of us was the core group. So like one person was responsible to watch the kids, and and we had fun. We had to serve lunch if it was at your house, and it was our little coffee klatch. But we did it for the shelter. And so having been raised to be generous toward others and to respect people of all walks of life, I just kept staying involved, and I followed them from State Street to Trinity to St. John's, and then to here. And I always said that when I retired from nursing, I wanted to come down and be able to volunteer in person. So then COVID hit.
Oh, yeah.
And my grown children weren't very enthralled with the fact that I would be in a closed building with a lot of people, so they said just wait till a little bit. So I've been here about a year now. I think March was when I started coming. I come on Thursdays, and I do what Solomon tells me to do.
What's it like working with Solomon?
Solomon's great. He's great. He's got a good sense of humor. He keeps people in line in a nice way, But if he needs to, he can be a little stern with them, and I appreciate that because I was told I was a mean mother.
Oh, geez.
But now my children are, functional members of society, so that's good. Solomon's great, and he's easygoing with me. I mean, he knows. He gives me my job, which is usually something like I make a lot of sandwiches that go in the packed lunch, but I come in, I like to clean the kitchen and kind of go through the refrigerators and straighten things up, clean things up, and then I just, clear tables, say hi to people, pick up trash, whatever I feel like needs to be done.
Anything in the time you volunteered that stands out? Any interaction with someone, or?
I'd have to think for a minute, but I finally got to come help with the Christmas daytime party. That was a first this year because I wasn't working, and I always wanted to do that. And in the past, if I could get the day off, it was already, you had enough help or whatever. So that was fun to be able to be involved with that, and I handed out socks. So that was, people were very appreciative for socks. That's always a necessary item.
Yeah.
Socks, underwear, t-shirts. I can't say in particular. It's interesting though that Shelley, the director, and I grew up in the same neighborhood actually, and we got to talking one day, and she said, "Where did you grow up? What the stuff you're talking about is so familiar to me." And so I told her, I grew up in South Bexley, and she said she did too. And we asked each other our maiden names, and it turns out her older sister was in my class, and I used to spend the night at her house. And my little sister was in her class, and she used to spend the night at my house. And we talked about, growing up, and it's a small world,
Right.
Now
you've been through, you mentioned all of the steps, all of the different locations. What do you think of the new building? Well, it's not really new anymore. I guess the building here on Parsons
Well, I will
Avenue.
say the building's great in terms of you having your own space. Plus, it is a lot easier to bring donations than it was since State Street, because at Trinity, you had to hope for a parking meter and then go in. I don't know, and same with St. John's. Parking to park to just drop something off was a hassle, I mean, I did it, but this is nice because you can pull up right behind the building and knock on the door and someone will come get your things. And was it, for a real short while, it was on Long Street too, was it?
No,
No,
we weren't
maybe
on
that was
Long.
another one. I did a coat drive at work one time and took some coats to, maybe that was the Faith Mission.
That probably was Faith Mission.
But I decided to just focus on this because Kent's and Mary's original thing of, we're not gonna turn you away, when they used to sleep people anyway. If you're drunk, we're not going to send you to Maryhaven and fix you in one night.
Right.
If you can behave, you can stay. And I liked that philosophy. That, we know there's problems, we know people got stuff going on, we're not gonna say, go get help and then you can come back.
Right.
You can just come. And that's the beauty of the open shelter.
If someone were thinking of volunteering or supporting, like you have, you've supported for many, many years, decades. If someone were thinking of helping or supporting the open shelter, what would you tell them?
First, I would suggest that you go to the Open Shelter website and hit the donate button and go through PayPal. Because that's what I do. I do a monthly donation, have for whenever since that got to be available.
Right.
I used to just send checks.
Yep.
Just $5, $1, $100, $50, whatever you
You're
can
right.
do. Whatever you can do. But it's super easy and PayPal is so secure and nice. That's a good way. And then like for me, I come on Thursdays and so if you call and ask for Solomon, he'll give you ideas when you can come and what time. I kind of make my own time up just because I have elderly parents and things, but I usually come from like 10 to 2-ish. And when I come, like I said, he just gives me a little task and I do it. And like I try to always bring something that I think is needed for the kitchen, or I go through my husband's clothes and bring things he doesn't wear anymore.
Right.
But I think monetarily is great, and items that are clean and something you yourself would still like. Clean, new socks, new underwear, new t-shirts. All of that's well received, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And just to top out, Harry and I were talking too. He's from the South End. My dad grew up in what is German Village now, back in the 30s and 40s, 50s, graduated from St. Mary's. And so this area of town, the South End, is, it's in the family blood to keep your love, trying to keep it going down here. It's an asset to the community that they are keeping this building nice.
Got it.